Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Let's Taste with the Intrepid Wino. My name is James Garesbrook, and if you've been following my podcast or if you've seen previous videos here on the Intrepid Wino YouTube channel, you might have seen me talking about Tahbilk. Tahbilk is an historic winery in the Ngambie, central Victorian area, which is, sorry, my tasting buddy here, Millie. Tahbilk is very important in the context of wine in Victoria, particularly for two grape varieties, Marsanne and for Shiraz. They have one of the oldest vineyards for Shiraz in Victoria, if not Australia, which is the 1860s block, which amazingly is protected from phylloxera because of the sandy soils. But the lovely people at Fireworks PR have sent me on behalf of Tahbilk some white wine samples, and I'm going to open these up. We are experiencing some warmer weather, which is really exciting, and summer is not very far away. So without further ado, I'm going to start opening up wine. So the first wine is the 2016 Tahbilk Marsanne. Marsanne is a variety synonymous with Tahbilk, but also, in fact, it is a variety that originates from the south of France, particularly in the Rhone Valley. More often than not, it's blended with other varieties, but Tahbilk, amongst a few others in Australia, quite well known for their single variety Marsanne wines. Very, very, very pale in colour, almost, completely clean, just a very, very slight flick of yellow. Quite exuberant on the nose, lots of lovely orchard fruits, apple, pear, very, very subtle white floral notes, lovely and aromatic, quite inviting. There's a bit of sort of kiwi element in there as well, but yeah, smells nice. Let's taste. Very clean, very simple in fact. It's not really giving me much on the palate. It's nice and fresh, it's easy drinking. Look, I'd have this one pretty cold because it really doesn't have much character at all. There's a little bit of fruit in there, good acidity, it's nice and dry, just a hint of fruit on the finish, but pretty, not really giving much. It's a very ordinary, very simple wine. 1890, pretty good value, but I think you can probably find more interesting white wines at 1890. Let's move on to the second wine, which is also from 2016, and it is the Riesling, and it has the same recommended retail price of 1890. Riesling, of course, famous further south. Further north, I should say, in France, but probably even more famous in Germany and Austria, at least, in my opinion. And Riesling is probably one of the most planted varieties in Australia, a long way behind stuff like Chardonnay and Sauvignon Blanc, but pretty prominent. There you go. Quite an interesting kind of candied fruit character. Candied green fruits, candied yellow fruits. Yeah, it's almost got like a bubblegum kind of smell to it. Again, green fruits, some lychee as well. Those nice sort of fleshy pink lychees. Yeah, it's not really a aromatic structure I've seen in Riesling before. Let's taste. Nice and dry. Not really exuberant on the front of the palate. It actually kind of develops a little bit in the mid palate. That kind of candy character comes through a little bit on the palate as well. It's actually got quite nice fruit, but again, it sort of lacks a little bit of focus. The acids are there, but they're not really kind of zippy on the palate. Yeah, like I don't think of this as being particularly varietal, a particularly varietal example of Riesling. It's very easy drinking, but it's not really making me think Riesling. Yeah, it's still a bit flat on the front of the palate. Okay, next wine, another variety famous from the south of France in the Rhone Valley, Viognier, another 2016 wine. This one we are jumping up to $21.30 recommended retail. Give that a rinse. Still getting that kind of candied aroma from the Riesling. Maybe it's a Viognier as well. There's kind of an interesting sort of buttery note to it. More yellow fruits, sort of kumquat, nashi, a bit of orange there, some orange blossom as well. Not really showing much. It's a fairly shy nose. Let's taste. Bit more warmth here, a good viscosity. This is a fairly good example of Viognier, I think. Viognier is a fairly tough variety and can be a little bit more expensive, so I think this is good. It kind of has, you're starting to see that kind of apricot character. It's not overly oily and viscous. It's not really hot. It's not very alcoholic. It's still quite fresh. There is some complexity to it. I think it does sort of build on the palate there. I think that actually, that's pretty good for just over $20 retail. I think that's a really good example of Viognier. Probably it's not as good as some of the under $20 retail Eden Valley Viogniers from Yalumba, but I think that's actually a pretty good white wine. So I'm quite happy with that one. That sort of that floral note does come through quite nicely. Finally, we are looking at a sweet wine, I assume. Cut Marsanne 2012 in a 500ml bottle. This is $24.80. Sweet wines tend to be more expensive just because for the amount of grapes that you would start with, you don't end up with as much wine. In the end, again, it's a shame that there aren't more sweet wines, dessert wines consumed in Australia or in general around the world, because they can be good, but I think it's quite easy to get a little bit carried away with the sweetness, and you can lack complexity and definition. You need to have some acidity. It still has to have some freshness to it, in my opinion. This is showing more oiliness. So it's got a reduction. It's got an interesting kind of shellfish note, and there's almost a baked note, like, I don't know, baked apricot pie. It almost makes me think of like chips, hot chips, salty hot chips, but like a nice, really crispy skin. Very subtle sort of salty caramel note to it as well. But yeah, like there are some dry floral notes too. Let's taste. Big whack of dried apricots right in the middle of the palate. Dried pear as well. It's not very sweet. It's not too it's not cloying. It's not really thick, kind of gloopy, viscousy in nature. It's quite fresh, but it's also on the light side. It's quite simple. I think that's going to be a really good one to match with a lot of different desserts. It's probably not got enough oomph to match with richer, sort of chocolatey caramel kind of desserts. Good with vanilla type stuff, and good with kind of baked custard fruits, that kind of thing. It's quite pleasant, but for me, I think the only big winner is the Viognier. The Marsanne is a little bit too simple. The Reisling kind of doesn't look like Riesling, and the cane cut Marsanne, it's very good. It's very good. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just not particularly interesting. So yeah, Viognier is the winner for me. But thank you very much for watching this video. Thank you very much to Tahbilk and to Fireworks PR for sending me samples. I'm more than happy to look at wines and share my thoughts on them. If you did enjoy this video, please hit the like button and leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. Come and visit me at intrepidwino.com. Send me an email, because again, I'd love to hear from you. Follow me on social media, but until next time, cheers.